Wealth will not make us rich, but it will make us free. The words of Will Durant from his book, The Story of Philosophy. In the first episode of this sequence, I showed you how to prepare yourself for new reading material by asking questions. In other words, to determine ahead of time what information that you hope to gather by reading a certain book, poem, biography, and so on. Now, that simple, unsophisticated study method is most effective when you already have some introduction to the material. If you have read Shakespeare before, then it is easy to prepare questions for the reading of Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet or what have you. If I've read an article on Christianity, then I may be full of some very pregnant questions prior to reading one of the Gospels. However, that method also has limited usefulness. In particular, it does not prepare you for the wealth of unexpected information that some reading material might offer you. You may ask the most astute questions about the Epic of Gilgamesh before reading it, but you may not have expected to learn about the snake that steals the plant of eternal life, or that Gilgamesh was one-third God. The character of Enkidu may be a complete shock to you. It is valuable to answer questions that you already have about a text before reading it, but it is even more important to be ready to take note of all the things that you had not anticipated learning. Today, I will show you a slightly more sophisticated system of note-taking that students of any age can use. This new method allows you to make simple but thorough record of all the things that you learn which you were possibly not expecting. Now, I've placed a blank template for the system on the web page for this episode at western-traditions.org, and I've also posted an example of how a student might apply this template to their own reading of the Epic of Gilgamesh, or to the opening chapter anyway. Note that this system is simple. Students could do this in their own handwriting, and indeed, I recommend that all do. Now, I am not at all against technology. After all, I am producing a podcast on the internet, but there is no doubt that taking notes by hand associates your mind with information in a much more intimate way when compared with typing something up. Don't get me wrong, we will get to the point where I demonstrate how the student can turn his or her notes into an essay and even post it online. But as I stated in the first episode of this sequence on note-taking, we're taking baby steps, ramping up the sophistication of our work little by little. Now, this system essentially just lays out 8 different categories or subjects and leaves a blank space after each category. The 8 categories of ideas listed on this simple worksheet are the following: people, politics, conflicts, knowledge, teachings, art, literature, and urbanization. With this worksheet in hand, students can keep track of most of the vital information that they discover as they read. And now, they're not meant to write out eloquent summaries here. We're not there yet. Here, you simply jot down names, words, and phrases as you read, things that you know are important reading a given text. Allow me to elaborate a little on the 8 categories. The first category, people, is probably obvious. Here you will write down the names of characters, historical figures, whoever appears in the writing. The second category, politics, is a good place to take note of political systems that are significant in the reading. Reading a history of the American Revolution, you would probably jot down constitutional monarchy and representative democracy. You could also make notes about political campaigns or revolutionary ideas like Marxism or the republicanism of the French Revolution. Category number 3 is conflicts. This is the place where the student takes notes of battles, wars, and even simple personal conflicts that might not actually involve war. The Battle of the Bulge in World War II would go here. So would the long-running confrontation between Pompey and Julius Caesar. But you would also put down here the long confrontation between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. The fourth category is knowledge. This category is where you will write down important scientific discoveries or advancements in mathematics, or any sort of technological progress that's mentioned in the reading. This could include things like the spread of writing, Newton's law of gravity, landing on the moon, Euclid's elements of geometry, and so on. Teachings is the fifth category. This includes both religious and philosophical ideas that are pertinent to the reading. You might write down broad topics such as Islam, Christianity, or rationalism, but it could also be more specific concepts like substance and accident in the theories of philosophy, or it could be religious teachings such as the Golden Rule or turn the other cheek. This is the place where beliefs about morality can be written down, as well as belief or lack of belief in the afterlife. Art is the category where you can write down the names of famous artistic works, such as the Sistine Chapel or the Mona Lisa, but it's also for general categories of artwork that appears, such as Roman frescoes, oil painting, murals, bas-relief, and so on. Now, literature is the category in which you will record the names of important texts which are mentioned or are important in a particular reading. For instance, reading a biography of Thomas Aquinas, you would probably see mentioned his Summa Theologica, among other writings, as well as the Bible or other books. An article about Edgar Allan Poe might mention The Telltale Heart or his poem The Raven. Here you would keep track of all such stories, books, and poems. Urbanization, the eighth and final category, is where you would take notes on any mentioned progress of city life in the reading material. This would include architectural feats such as Göbekli Tepe, the pyramids, the Twin Towers, but it's primarily a place to record the steps taken by human societies toward greater and greater density in city life. Note that this method is not always going to result in utilizing every category. Reading a long poem and taking notes on it, you are probably going to leave several sections of this worksheet blank. Conversely, reading an encyclopedia article about the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, you may very well run out of room in all the categories. The worksheet will not apply well to every type of reading. Reading an essay on Plutarch, you might find that this tool works very well, but we will often apply other study methods to things like poetry and certain kinds of novels. Also, just as with the last study method, it may be good to use several worksheets in some situations. You would not just apply one page of this to an entire book, for example, but rather each chapter or each section, however the book is divided up, each section would get its own page of notes. That's what I did with the example on the website. For example, the opening chapters of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is about the hero's meeting with Enkidu. Again, in the example, notice how I am simply jotting down names, words, ideas, and so on. In the next installment of this sequence of episodes, we will begin to adapt the information captured in our note-taking and turn it all into an outline. That's it for this one. We'll see you in the next episode.